Have you ever wished for something so badly that the wishing itself made you anxious and block your own next step? Have you ever wondered whether manifestation is real or whether it is simply the mind learning how to focus with wisdom? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. Today we are going to talk about a topic that can easily become confusing because it's right between hope and fantasy. People hear the word manifest and they imagine snapping fingers, thinking a thought, and watching reality obey. Then they try it, nothing changes overnight, and they either feel foolish or they become more desperate, chasing stronger techniques and louder beliefs. But there is another way to look at this, a way that is calmer, more honest, and surprisingly more powerful. The deeper point is that what you call manifestation is often the result of alignment. When your mind becomes clear, when your intention becomes steady, when your actions become consistent, your life begins to reorganize around that clarity. That is not superstition. That is cause and effect. And when you combine that with compassion and humility, you stop using manifestation as an escape from responsibility and start using it as a path of awakening. Let me tell this like a story, not because stories are cute, but because they show what ideas do to a real person who has to wake up each morning and live with their own mind. There was a man named Run who loved the idea of manifestation because it felt like relief. He was tired. He had been trying for years, working hard, failing, trying again, watching other people seem to get the breaks he never got. He carried a quiet bitterness that he did not want to admit, not because he was evil, but because bitterness feels shameful to people who want to be good. He would tell himself he was fine, but deep down he felt a heavy question pressing his chest. Why does life feel like a struggle even when I am trying? Then one day, he watched a short talk where a teacher said something that sounded simple. If you become clear within yourself, what you wish for will begin to happen. The teacher was not selling magic. The teacher was pointing to the power of inner orientation. Run did not fully understand it, but he felt something, hope. And hope can be dangerous if it becomes addiction, but hope can also be medicine if it becomes direction. Run went home and tried it the way most people try it at first. He sat down, closed his eyes, and demanded things inside his head. He demanded more money. He demanded a better job. He demanded people to respect him. He demanded a new relationship. He demanded success. He demanded the universe pay him back for his suffering. He did this for days, then weeks. He watched videos, repeated phrases, wrote goals on paper, tried to feel excited, tried to convince himself it was already done. Sometimes it felt good for a moment, like a sugar rush. Then the mood faded and he was left with the same life and a sharper disappointment. He felt like the universe was ignoring him. One night he got angry, not a dramatic anger, but the kind that turns inward. He thought, maybe this is all nonsense. Maybe I am just fooling myself. Maybe manifestation is just another trick to keep people dreaming while nothing changes. Then something happened that did not look spiritual at all. He visited his aunt. His aunt was not famous. She did not talk like a guru. She lived in a small place with simple furniture and a calm rhythm. When Run arrived, he noticed the air felt different, not mystical, just settled. His aunt moved slowly, did one thing at a time, spoke kindly, listened fully. She did not rush to give advice. She asked questions that made him feel seen. Run complained about his life. He said he was trying everything. He said he was manifesting. He said nothing was working. His aunt did not laugh. She did not mock him. She poured tea and waited until he finished. Then she asked one question. What do you actually do after you wish? Iron frowned. He said, I am doing the practices. I am visualizing. His aunt nodded gently. Then she said, No. I mean, what do you do in the world after your mind asks for something? Iron opened his mouth and realized he had no clean answer. He worked, yes, but his work was scattered. He applied for jobs, yes, but he did it in bursts of panic and then weeks of avoidance. He wanted a better relationship, yes, but he was emotionally closed and carried resentment. He wanted money, yes, but he spent impulsively whenever he felt anxious, as if spending could erase discomfort. He wanted respect, yes, but he spoke harshly when he felt insecure, pushing people away and then blaming them for leaving. His aunt watched his face and said something that changed the direction of his whole practice. Wishing is not the problem. Confusion is the problem. If you are confused inside, your wishing becomes noise. If you are clear inside, your wishing becomes a compass. But a compass only helps if you arc. That night, Tehran went home and could not stop thinking about it. He realized he had been treating manifestation like a shortcut around the work of becoming a different person. He wanted a different life without paying attention to the inner habits that kept producing the same results. This is where the story becomes real, because this is where most people turn away. It is easier to keep hoping for a miracle than to look at the causes you keep planting. But awakening begins when you are willing to look. Iron started observing his mind the next morning, not judging, just watching. He noticed that his wishing was mixed with fear. He would say, I want a better job, but underneath the sentence was a tremor that said, I am not good enough. I will be rejected. I will fail again. That fear shaped his behavior. He would apply to jobs below his ability because rejection felt less painful. He would avoid reaching out to mentors because being seen felt dangerous. He would procrastinate because procrastination delayed the moment of possible failure. He noticed that his wishing was mixed with resentment. He would say, I want more money, but underneath was the belief that the world owed him, that other people had stolen opportunities, that success was unfair. That resentment made him less creative, less generous, less open to learning. He noticed that his wishing was mixed with impatience. He would say, I want change now. And when it did not happen quickly, he would collapse into despair. That despair made him inconsistent. And inconsistency is the silent killer of dreams. So, Aaron tried a different experiment. Instead of trying to force reality with intense emotion, he tried to clean the inside first. He sat down for a few minutes and did something simple. He breathed and watched thoughts come and go. When a thought of fear came, he did not fight it. He named it fear and returned to breathing. When a thought of envy came, he named it envy and returned. When a thought of impatience came, he named it impatience and returned. He was not trying to become blank. He was training stability. Stability is power. Then he set an intention, but not a desperate intention, a steady one. He chose one clear wish, not 10. He chose something realistic but meaningful. He wanted a better role in his field, one that matched his skills and paid enough to remove constant pressure. Then he asked himself a second question. If this wish were already guiding me, what would I do today? And he did one small action. Just one. He updated his resume carefully, not with frantic energy, but with attention. He reached out to one person he respected with a simple message asking for advice. He applied to one role that was a stretch. Then he stopped. He did not drown himself in 100 applications. He did not burn out in one day. He simply planted one seed. The next day he repeated. Breathing, clarity, one action. After a week he noticed something subtle. His mind felt less chaotic. He was still not in a new job, but the inner weather was changing. When the mind calms, you start seeing things you missed. He began noticing how he spoke about himself. He had been using words like stuck, unlucky, doomed, behind. These words were not harmless. They were instructions to the nervous system. They trained his body to feel small. They trained his actions to be timid. So he changed the language, not into fake positivity, but into truthful strength. He began saying, I am learning. I am practicing. I am building. I am becoming consistent. I can take the next step. That shift alone changed his posture. It changed his tone in interviews. It changed how he wrote cover letters. It changed how he asked questions. People respond to energy, not only to facts. I calm, confident person invites trust. Now, some people hear that and say, so manifestation is just psychology. But that is too small. Psychology is part of it, but the deeper layer is spiritual. Because when you work with your mind, you are working with the root of suffering. Most suffering is not only what happens. Most suffering is the story you keep repeating about what happens. The story becomes your prison, so Aaron continued practicing. And he added compassion, because clarity without compassion can become harsh. Many people become disciplined and then they become cruel to themselves. They treat mistakes like proof of failure. They treat emotions like enemies. That kind of discipline creates inner war. Inner war leaks into outer life. So Aaron practiced a different kind of discipline, firm but kind. When he missed today, he did not collapse into shame. He returned the next day. When he felt fear, he did not insult himself. He breathed and acted anyway. Gently, when he failed an interview, he allowed the disappointment. Then he learned one lesson and moved forward. This is how karma changes, not by pretending failure did not happen, but by refusing to let failure become identity. As weeks turned into months, opportunities began appearing, not because reality was suddenly obeying a spell, but because Aaron had become the kind of person who could notice and use opportunities. A recruiter responded. A friend referred him. A former colleague mentioned a role. His improved resume and calmer communication made interviews smoother. He started receiving second-round calls. And here the story teaches another important truth. Sometimes manifestation works after you stop needing it to work. When you are desperate, you cling. Clinging creates tension. Tension narrows perception. Narrow perception makes you miss paths. When you become calm, you become wide inside. Wide inside means you see options. So Aaron stopped obsessing about timelines. He focused on practice. One day he got an offer. The pay was higher. The role was better. The team culture was healthier. He accepted. For a moment he felt triumphant. But then he felt something else that surprised him. He felt quiet gratitude because he realized the job was not the deepest reward. The deepest reward was the inner person he had become through the practice. The calm, the steadiness, the ability to face fear, the ability to act without panic, the ability to return after setbacks. That inner person would continue producing better outcomes in any situation. That is destiny. Now, you might think the story ends here, but the teacher inside life always gives the next lesson. Aaron had money now, not unlimited, but enough to breathe. And with that breathing room, new desires appeared. He wanted more status, more recognition, more comfort. It is normal. The mind does this. It moves the finish line. This is where wisdom becomes essential. Without wisdom, manifestation becomes a hunger machine. You get one thing and immediately need the next. You become rich outside and poor inside. So Aaron returned to practice. He asked himself, what do I actually want beneath these desires? He realized he wanted peace. He wanted meaning. He wanted connection. He wanted to feel useful. He wanted to love and be loved without fear. Those are not things you can force into existence with a wish alone. Those are things you cultivate through character. So he treated manifestation differently. He stopped treating it like ordering from the universe. He started treating it like aligning with reality. Alignment has 3 parts. The first part is clarity. You choose one intention that is meaningful, not 10 scattered cravings. You choose something that fits your values, not something that only feeds ego. The second part is inner condition. You train the mind to be stable, present, and less reactive. You reduce the noise of fear, resentment, and impatience. You practice mindfulness through simple breathing and honest observation. The third part is action. You do small, consistent actions that match the intention. You plant seeds daily. You stop demanding instant harvest. That is it. And it sounds simple, but simple does not mean easy. The ego loves complexity because complexity delays accountability. Simple practice brings results because it brings you face to face with yourself. Now let me bring in the spiritual heart of this topic. Because manifestation can become selfish if you are not careful. Many people use it only for personal gain, and then they feel empty even when they get what they want. Why? Because the soul is not satisfied by selfishness. The soul is satisfied by connection and compassion. So Aaron began to include compassion in his intention. He did not only wish for success, he wished to be useful. He wished to improve the lives of people around him. He wished to lead with kindness. He wished to support his family. He wished to mentor younger colleagues. He wished to be generous. This changed his energy. It removed a layer of anxiety. When your goals are only about you, the pressure becomes unbearable because your identity is on the line. When your goals include service, your identity softens. You can work hard without being crushed by ego. And that is where spiritual awakening enters. Awakening is not just feeling calm. Awakening is seeing that you are part of something larger than your cravings. Now let us talk about why certain teachings say, try this, anything that you wish will happen. People misunderstand it. They hear it as a promise that desire creates reality. But wise teachers usually mean something subtler. They mean that when your mind becomes one-pointed, when your intention is coherent, when your energy is not leaking into contradiction, life begins to respond because you begin to respond differently to life. Contradiction is the hidden enemy. You say you want health, but you keep choosing habits that destroy health. You say you want love, but you keep choosing walls and games. You say you want peace, but you keep feeding drama and comparison. You say you want money, but you keep spending to numb emotions. This is inner contradiction. It is like pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. You burn energy and go nowhere. So the real practice is removing contradiction. How do you remove contradiction? You start by becoming honest. You admit what you do, not what you wish you did. You stop lying to yourself. Because self-deception is spiritual darkness, not because it is evil, but because it blocks light. Then you practice awareness. You watch the moment when you are about to choose the old habit. You pause. You breathe. You choose differently, even if the choice is small. Small choices repeated become new character. New character becomes new destiny. This is why manifestation can be understood as karma transformation. Karma is not fatalism. Karma is the accumulation of causes. If you change causes, you change outcomes. If you change outcomes, you change the story you live inside. Now, I want to speak to you directly, because maybe you are here with a wish in your chest. Maybe you want a better school situation, a better job, a healthier body, by calmer mind, a repaired relationship, a new start, a creative breakthrough, a sense of purpose. I want you to hold that wish gently, not desperately. Then I want you to do a simple practice. Sit for a few minutes. Breathe slowly. Feel your body. Notice how many thoughts rush through. Do not fight them. Just notice. Then ask yourself one question. What is the clearest version of my wish? The version that matches my deepest values. Choose one sentence. Then ask yourself a second question. What is one small action I can do today that matches this wish? Do that one action. Then stop. Return tomorrow. That is the practice. Not dramatic, not flashy, but powerful. And if you want to deepen it, add compassion. Add a wish for others. Add gratitude. Gratitude is not pretending life is perfect. Gratitude is remembering what is already working, so your mind stops behaving like a starving animal. A grateful mind makes better decisions. Also, add forgiveness. Many people cannot manifest because they are carrying unresolved guilt and shame. They punish themselves silently. They believe they do not deserve good outcomes. They sabotage when things start improving. Forgiveness is the release of that inner punishment. Forgiveness does not erase responsibility. It removes the poison so you can practice wisely. If you have harmed someone, make repair. Apologize. Change behavior. If you have harmed yourself, stop. Begin again. Practice. Return. Returning is a spiritual skill. Now let me share a reflection that might sound familiar. I have seen people chase manifestation like a lottery ticket. They repeat phrases. They stare at vision boards. They demand signs. They wait for the universe to do everything. Often they become more anxious. Why? Because waiting without action makes the mind restless. Restlessness grows into despair. I have also seen people use the same idea in a mature way. They become clear. They reduce distraction. They train the mind. They act consistently. They stay patient. They include service. They become kinder. And their life changes. Not always instantly, but steadily, like a river carving stone. That is real. So the question is not whether manifestation is real. The question is whether you are using it as a fantasy or as a discipline. Fantasy is escape. Discipline is freedom. Freedom is being able to choose your next step without being owned by fear. Freedom is being able to desire without becoming desperate. Freedom is being able to work hard without becoming bitter. Freedom is being able to succeed without becoming arrogant. That is awakening. And awakening is the greatest manifestation of all, because when you awaken, you stop being a victim of your own mind. You become the keeper of your attention. And attention is where your life is built. Now we are coming to the end, and I want to leave you with one image. Imagine your mind is like a lens. If the lens is dirty, everything looks blurred and you cannot aim well. You might wish for a target, but you cannot hit it because the lens is distorted. Cleaning the lens does not magically move the target closer. It simply allows you to see undacked accurately. An accurate action changes outcomes. So cleanse the lens. That is the practice. Breathe. Observe. Reduce contradiction. Choose one intention. Take one step. Repeat. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Now I want to hear from you. What is something you are wishing for right now? And what is one small action you can take today that matches it? Share your story in the comments, because your experience might become the exact encouragement someone else needs. If you want to support the channel, subscribe, like, and leave a comment so more people can find these conversations about wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, and the practice of building a life from the inside out. And if you want to go deeper with us, consider becoming a member so we can keep creating content that helps you stay awake and steady. Until next time, keep your intention clear, keep your heart kind, and keep practicing the kind of manifestation that begins with truth.